police arrest 14 senior FIFA officials in a corruption sting as prosecutors launch a criminal case into the 2018 and 2022 World Cup bids. British Queen Elizabeth announces an EU referendum by the end of 2017 regarding the United Kingdom's membership. And Amnesty International accuses Hamas of war crimes in the Gaza Strip during last summer's Operation Protective Edge. Good evening. You're watching I-24 News. I'm Mical with the latest headlines. Several corruption scandals have hit FIFA this morning, with senior officials arrested in Zurich and a Swiss probe launched into the World Cup bids for 2018 and 2022. In an early morning raid in Zurich, Swiss authorities arrested 6 officials on corruption charges dealing with football tournaments in the Americas during the 90s. Later in the day, criminal proceedings were opened related to the choice of Russia and Qatar as World Cup hosts. This comes just a day before the opening of the FIFA Congress, where the organization is set to hold presidential elections. A short while ago, U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch called on action against the FIFA officials who she described as those who corrupted world football.
They held important responsibilities at every level, from building soccer fields for children in developing countries to organizing the World Cup. They were expected to uphold the rules that keep soccer honest and to protect the integrity of the game. Instead, they corrupted the business of worldwide soccer to serve their interests and to enrich themselves. This Department of Justice is determined to end these practices. The 47-count indictment against these individuals includes charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering conspiracies spanning 2 decades. Beginning in 1991, 2 generations of soccer officials, including the then presidents of 2 regional soccer confederations under FIFA, used their positions of trust within their respective organizations to solicit bribes from sports marketers in exchange for the commercial rights to their soccer tournaments. They did this over and over, year after year, tournament after tournament.
And I-24 News reporter Danny Swibel has more on the corruption scandal.
The arrests were made shortly after dawn at a Zurich hotel, where FIFA officials are staying ahead of this week's FIFA presidential election. In addition to the Swiss criminal probe, at least 6 football officials and a number of sports media and promotions executives could face extradition to the United States on corruption charges involving more than $100 million in bribes. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement that the 47-count indictment, unsealed in a federal court in New York, charged the defendants with racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering conspiracies as part of a scheme that spanned more than 2 decades. Those arrested did not include the Swiss head of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, but included several of those just below him in the hierarchy of the wealthiest and most powerful sports body on earth. FIFA is said to hold the elections for chairman on Friday as planned, despite the investigation, citing current chief Blatter is not involved.
FIFA's president, as well as the Secretary General, are not involved in the allegations. Although we welcome very much what is happening right now, because once again, it is FIFA who are suffering, this is a difficult moment.
Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, the man challenging Sepp Blatter for the most powerful job in world soccer, issued a statement saying he's saddened by the latest corruption scandal involving the sport's governing body FIFA. He also said FIFA needed to change.
I think that we all agree that it is time now for a change, to have a FIFA, transparent FIFA, to work on the sport itself, on development. You know, I cannot see myself being a member of the executive for another 4 years under the present circumstances, and I'm willing to take the challenge.
It is unclear what effect, if any, the arrest will have on the outcome of Friday's elections.
We move to the United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth said today the government will pass an early law to hold a referendum over whether or not to fully join the EU. Her speech confirmed plans to legislate for the referendum, as well as to block rises in income tax, VAT, VAT, and national insurance. I-24 News has more.
In a glittering royal procession, Queen Elizabeth II headed to Parliament and delivered the traditional Queen's speech, opening the new session of the legislature. The key point of her address was the new government's plan to hold a referendum on EU membership before the end of 2017. Prime Minister David Cameron had faced pressure to explain when the referendum would be held and what changes to the EU he wants before then.
My government will renegotiate the United Kingdom's relationship with the European Union and pursue reform of the European Union for the benefit of all member states. Alongside this, early legislation will be introduced to provide for an in-out referendum on membership of the European Union before the end of 2017.
Cameron, who says he would prefer to stay inside a reformed EU, but isn't ruling anything out if it fails to change, was re-elected on May 7th on a pledge to reshape ties with the bloc before allowing Britons to vote on whether to stay or leave. In addition to the referendum, the government is also proposing a 26-bill package, which Cameron describes as a program for working people that would create full employment and quote-unquote bring our country together. Among other measures promised was a reform of human rights laws designed to weaken the influence of the European Court of Human Rights, a crackdown on illegal immigration, more power for Scotland, and a bill preventing any rise in key taxes before 2020.
Meanwhile, former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair is to step down from his position as the Quartet's Middle East envoy representing the US, UN, EU and Russia. According to a source close to Mr. Blair, he will leave the role already next month. Blair, who became the Middle East envoy in 2007, notified UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon of his decision. He will, however, remain active on issues in the region as he remains fully committed to assisting the international community in advancing a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians. Syrian Foreign Minister Walid Mu'allim said Wednesday that Iran and Russia would not give up their support for the Syrian regime, which has faced 4 continuous years of conflict. Mu'allim said Damascus looked forward to a better and bigger Iranian role in the international arena as the Islamic Republic shares a common intention and is seeking stability for Syria.
The relation between Syria, the Russian Federation and the Islamic Republic of Iran is deeper than some people think. They have never been late to provide support for our tenacity. We support reaching an agreement on the nuclear issue that meets in the interests of the Iranian people, and we look forward to a more important and effective Iranian role on the international scene after the end of the current negotiations.
And 9 months after the end of Operation Protective Edge, a new report says Hamas committed serious human rights abuses during the war. According to Amnesty International, the group abducted, tortured, and committed some 23 extrajudicial killings of Palestinian civilians, most accused of collaborating with Israel. Earlier, we were joined from London by Saleh Hijaz, Israel-Palestine researcher at Amnesty International, to discuss the report.
Our main call is accountability. What we see is that in the last 6 years, we had 3 massive Israeli military operations in the Gaza Strip, and each time the Hamas authorities and the Hamas forces take advantage of the situation to settle scores and exact revenge against rivals. There is a pattern, and the pattern can only be stopped by holding the perpetrators accountable. We're calling on the Palestinian authorities to establish an independent, impartial investigative committee to look into these allegations. We're also calling on them to cooperate with all and any international investigative mechanism. There's also a call for Israel to cooperate and allow the human rights investigators such as ourselves into Gaza. We need to enter the Gaza Strip so that we're able to uncover all and any human rights abuses.
And we end in China, where 175 tomb robbers have been arrested after the country's Ministry for Public Security said they had taken artifacts from graves left by an agricultural civilization that existed in the area 5,000 years ago. Officials recovered more than 1,000 relics worth more than $80 million in a 9-month operation that involved more than 1,000 officers. And those were our headlines. Join us again in 20 minutes for all the latest breaking news. I'm Mical. Thank you for watching.